us and just talk about how you met. Yeah.
Okay, I'll let my wife go first. She's looking more beautiful than
Yes.
so she can go first.
Thank you. I'm Georgia Koopman, married to this lovely husband of mine, Leroy Koopman, known as Owen Koopman. And we've been married for about 22 years, actually 23. Or am I wrong? 24.
You're asking a guy. I'm supposed to be asking you that.
But anyway.
It's 22.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have we've actually met each other at a Pathfinder camp. And I was 13 at that stage, and he was 15. So we were representing different churches. So yeah, that's where we met. And we've been friends since that time. And we had been friends for 5 years. In between, he had requested me to be his girlfriend for 3 times, and I eventually asked him to date me.
Oh.
Yeah, I became a good fisherman. He would tell me, there's lots of fish in the sea, and I'm like, what's this about? But from my side, yeah, Leroy, as she's indicated, yes, we did meet at a Pathfinder fair. We were both living in Cape Town, and they had a fair out in Oudtshoorn. We were the different clubs would be in the school, so they housed us in a school, yeah, in different classrooms. It was actually a sister that initiated the meetings between the groups of the different clubs, and that's how we all became a big group of friends.
Wow.
Yeah. And from the first time I saw her, I knew. She didn't know, she didn't need to know, so that was fine. But yeah, from the first time that I saw her, yeah.
Sure, but what is it about her? Like you're just like, is it like God just confirming, like, okay, this is the one for me? And then for you, when did you realize, okay, this is the guy I'm meant to be marrying?
Because I thought next question, like,
yeah,
what made you decide this is it? Like,
for me, I think it's most probably my personality type, who I am. So although I love being with people, I love interacting, I'm one of those weird people. I like being on my own and doing stuff, but yet I can't survive without that interaction, that realness, that closeness of having people around me. You could say I judged the book by its cover because I didn't know her at all, but I think just the way that when I saw her, the way she carried herself, the way she behaved, I really have no idea, to be honest, but it was just in my, it was like just there. I saw her, and for me that was it. I'm also the type of person, life will happen, I'll allow life to happen. So if it wasn't meant to be, because things happen. As she indicated, it took a few times until I got her to ask me. Because I think she was almost half expecting, like, it's going to come again, it's going to come again. And I think when she was ready, and then I was just like, I've asked enough. Life must happen now. Yeah. But for me, really for me, I used to tell my friends, don't.
Go there.
Don't. I know I'm only 50, but don't. And I mean, so for me, God was there from the start. How? I didn't know, I didn't realize, I didn't know. But yeah, and that's what's most important for me, especially since from that point on up to this point, no matter what we go through, I always need to remind myself, that was my experience. I believe it was led by God. So no matter what happens, I gotta fight to make it work.
Okay, so after the 3 times he had asked me, because we've been such good friends, I didn't want to have a broken friendship because of a relationship.
Sorry, this will be news for me as well.
Oh. So
Really, never asked her.
so he came to me with this love poem for a girl, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, so you are into somebody else, okay? Because we used to come over and we used to play cards with my sister-in-law and just, you know, have a good laugh or whatever. And one night, I actually prayed to God.
How old were you?
I was 18. Yes, I prayed to God and I asked Him to give me the right person. Because, you know, they were at that stage already. You had this thing where guys would just take you for a ride, or they would just want to date you because of who you are or whatever. So I just told God, please, I want to have the right person for me. And when He came with this poem and saying He wants to give a rose and all of this, so I'm like, so what is it? Is it like just a friend, or what's going on here? So so he says, no, it's somebody that I'm maybe interested in. And I think like a night or two I was praying about this, and I'm like, God, I know He's asked me so many times. I don't know if He's still interested in me, but I'm going to try and see if He is. So one evening we went out, and that evening I popped the question, asking Him if He will take me. And yeah, since then we've been in a real relationship. Yeah.
So you were 18.
Yes, I was 18. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
So when we connected, even before that and during that period, we were literally soulmates because we were friends.
Yeah.
Like I told you, she didn't know. I just told the guys, you know, just stay away. But we could talk for hours. We could talk about anything. So the one thing that I always remember is that I would walk home from church, and she would have a boyfriend, and he'd be driving a car. So you know, some of us are not always the levels.
The levels.
So I was like, this is life doing its thing. We'll live with it. And I'll find her running, and like, I'm like, the guy's there. It's like, no, you'll get me at home, because home would be obviously, or not, but on my way home. And then she'll walk home with me. And that's the type of friendship actually we had, that she would actually, I'll be like, okay, that's fine. But that was the friendship we shared. So we got to know each other at a very sort of deep, emotional, whatever level. As friends, you know, we could tell each other everything. We could just share. And just so when you were done talking, you know, you could face the world, whether it's when you were 15, 16, 18, 19 years old, didn't matter. But yeah, that was the bond we built up as friends from a very young age.
And we were very good friends, I must say. We could speak about everything, like you said. And I think that's how we built our marriage, I suppose, because we'd be first person I think about if I get good news is him, you know. So at the end of the day, it is like, yeah, we have been soulmates. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So a follow-up question to that is, I think you sort of alluded to it. How has God been a part of your journey to matrimony, or you know, even after, perhaps in your marriage? How have you identified God as a part of it?
So when we looked at the questions you asked, so we didn't actually talk about it until this morning, because I felt from my side I wanted us not to be too rehearsed. But that was a very difficult question, actually, I must be honest with you. So in terms of being honest, we just know God was there. We have no idea how or where, because to be honest, we had actually left the church at that stage. As young people, we were just doing our own thing, we were just on our own vibe. And whether life was good or bad, life was actually quite tough. But we were just on our own vibe. And to be where we are today, looking back, we just know God was there. No idea how. So although we had gone this way, and traditionally you would think that, okay, there's that distance between you. but God was actually with us every step of the way. That's all I can say, because we had left the church. We were actually even living together at some stage, and then we decided, for our parents' sake, because they were attending church, and because we know people in the church would be like, "What are your kids doing?" Wah, 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 you know, all these things. And we just decided that let's get married for more the sake of our parents and their reputation in the church, for that matter. Because that's, you know, you're young, you're like, oh, you know, but let's do it that way. The one good thing was that the church we grew up in didn't, because generally they would have said, no, because of this or that, we wanted to get married in the church, you know, all those things, but they were very, still loving towards us because of the fact that we basically grew up, I grew up and I was born into that congregation. She moved there at that same age where we had most probably met. So I think the church doing that for us, coming together. For example, when we got married, we had no money. We were going to go to court and get married, so that, you know, we could tell the parents legally, don't worry, sorted, you can sit in church and smile, everything's okay, you don't have to worry. And then her mom actually said, no, you'll get married, we'll do a reception, even if it's at the home. So one of the church people gave us a car to drive us in. Some aunt gave her a dress. Church people cooked and made stuff for, you know, the little table we put out and the reception. Everything was very informal. And at the day, they just announced the Saturday morning during an couple is getting married here tomorrow, guys. So yeah, the wedding happened over 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, within 3 days.
Like from Wednesday to Sunday.
Wow.
We got married the Sunday.
Yeah. So Wednesday to
So
Friday, the thing is, we told my mother them on Wednesday. The Friday we went for counseling with the pastor, and the Sunday we got married.
Wow.
Yeah. So the announcement Saturday was they're getting married, everyone's invited. So Sunday I rock up at church, almost late, my car broke down to church, and I'm just, you know, you don't even want to look back. So I'm looking back like, oh, the church is empty. And just before the service started, when I looked back again, the church was
full.
Packed. Like it was a Sabbath day, like a normal Sabbath, so like everyone in church was just there. I mean, so that's how I knew God was just there. God never left our side. And the deciding factor, because as you go through different stages in your life, it's not how your environment influences you, it's your decision in terms of what happens. So when we just shortly after we get married, we came out to Pretoria, so we had to leave home. Never left Cape Town, never left our families. And I'm that type of person, so I spoke to her and I said, if we get kids, how would we want to raise our kids? And we both said, in the church. It was very church, and we were like, nothing to do. And we were like, okay, but then we need to make changes, and those lifestyle decisions that we were still sort of on the fence with, we were able to take a stance in terms of that. But I think that was God having led us, us seeing where we were and where we are now. And I think now we can see that God was always there, because obviously we went through some tough times during that period, until we got married, even I think just after the first year or so, until we had made those choices and decisions, but only through the grace and the power of God, because we couldn't have done any of those, through ourselves.
So the reason why I also had moved out of the house is my mom and I had quite hectic times, and at one stage it was so bad, and my mother had put black bags out, and I had to leave the home. So I think that is also where things, you know, it rocks you, and you become rebellious because of certain things that had happened before, and so that is also for another time, I suppose, that I've had to go through. Which I suppose also doesn't give you the right to start living with each other, but you know, there were circumstances that led us to live with each other. But you know, at the end of the day, we knew that we were going to be together forever when we did that. So at the end of the day, I must say God had led us through so many things. I mean, at one stage we could have actually been dead in an accident.
Wow.
That, you know, at then for us to be here as God. So yeah, so no, definitely God has led us through all of this.
I think I appreciate your honesty, because you find, first thing, a lot of couples who want to get married but feel they need to wait and save money and have this big occasion, and you guys did it in 3 to 5 days.
Yes.
And secondly, people who do live together before marriage and then feel so terrible and allow that to sort of create a wedge in their relationship, and just hearing how you allowed God to sort of work through your relationship to continue to bring you together eventually. So I mean, I appreciate that.
Look, life is what it is. I won't judge you, but I would advise. We did it. When we got married, it was something totally different. I thought it's just a form, making something, just a formality, going through a form of, but it was just something totally different. That experience, the commitment you make to God, the commitment you make to your partner. Because unfortunately, when you live together, the honesty is, or what I'd like to say is the realness of it is that it's still not a real, full, true commitment. Even though we knew we'll be together, because we hadn't solidified it formally, but not so much in a sort of a man-made ceremony, because there's another level to it that is that commitment to God. And when you make that commitment to God, then you make that commitment to her in front of God, but you're intentional about it. So that marriage ceremony is more, not so much for the people and for the families which we were doing it for, but even our experience living together, mine especially, was that there's not really a full commitment. So it's like having marriage without that personal or own decision and intention to be fully committed to this life process or this life journey and this relationship that you have with this other person. And for me, it brings that whole new dynamic to it. So we're honest about it, but I need to just share that experience that if I could tell anybody, I would say, I mean, I won't judge you if you do, but I just feel that if you're going to do that, then go all the way. For me, it's almost like there's always just that back door somewhere, and if things happen, then it's easy to say, but we're not actually married. You know, so we want to say marriage is this institution created by whoever to control whatever, but when it's a convenient excuse, then it's, but we're not actually married, but only, you understand. So if you're actually going to do that, which is just more or less the same thing, then actually take that leap of faith, do it, get married, and just leave it over to God. At least in that respect, very few things I've been able to really leave to God and say, God, please carry this burden, deal with this, because we're used to controlling things ourselves and dealing. You know, everything comes to those who help themselves, or whatever that adage is. But I think without knowing it, at least our marriage, we just left with God, and God actually brought us through from the beginning to where we are now, really.
Can you just say that last part about non-committal, choosing, it's a choice? I can't remember how.
Okay, I also actually can't remember. These things pop into my head and out of my mouth. But I think what I was saying was that the world today, even we see it as sort of, in terms of relationships, it's a space of non-committal. But what I was saying is that in itself is a decision. You're actually making a choice that this is how the relationships will be. it will be non-committal, the same that we made a choice in terms of when we were living together, for whatever reasons we felt justified at that stage. The day we got married, although we initially did it for someone else, we actually felt the difference in terms of that. In terms of our relationship with our family, but more importantly, our relationship with God. And that was a choice. So for me today, that issue of non-committal, where everything goes and everything is just sort of just what it must be, is in fact a choice as well. And I think that's been my experience. That's what life has taught me. Whether you allow your environment to impact you that way, that still is a choice. Because sometimes that need to belong is so high up on our agenda, whether we're aware of it or not. We make the choice. Whether it's, how do you say it? Whether you know you're making the choice or not.
Subconscious.
Yeah, whether that's it, subconsciously or not, but you actually make a choice eventually. We'd like to say, when called out on it, it's our environment that impacted us and forced us to do it. But ultimately, I feel that that's a choice. And as I said, in terms of our church family and our church organization, which is more our values that we live by, it becomes who we are. We need to be aware of the fact and not be afraid to be different.
Thank you for that. So now just talking more about the relationship and the journey of your relationship. Can you share whatever example you want to share of one of the most joyous moments of your relationship in your marriage? And
So I would say there were three. And the first one was when we got married. Yes. I could smile all day, and at one stage my cheeks were so sore I couldn't anymore. But I think that was the most joyous. And then my daughter when she was born, and when my son was born. I think those are the three that really those were my three joyous moments. Yes.
Yeah, we share those. Simply because we didn't go through months of planning and looking at venues and having to accommodate guest lists. Like we look at people and we're like, what's that? We don't know. We have no idea, because we just said everyone come to the service. At the service we said if you can fit into the home, come. Even if you can't, come. There's a backyard. There will be food, because I mean, really, the aunties in church, they really came to the party. What was nice was it was in their home. I think that was the only wedding you'll be at where you see the bride in a gown playing dominoes.
Love it.
We lost terribly, but it was just so fun, so relaxed, so just sort of spur of the moment and spirit-led. So that really made everything just special. My daughter, for me, there's a story behind it. I had a dream about my daughter.
Really?
Wow.
And I've never dreamt about anything or anyone else like that. And when she was born, up to this day, I can't even fully remember, but just in my heart, I feel that everything that I dreamt. So I was even sick when she was pregnant with her.
Yes.
Really?
In the morning. So
Really?
So for Gabby, I had the morning. Oh, I was nauseous for days.
Yeah, the nose.
That's interesting. Wow, you sure, but you never know that actually happened. Wow.
Yeah, the nose.
And I never have these things. So you never hear me talking about I had a dream or this feeling or whatever. But for her, oh, for sure. So she was our first blessing from God, and then our son too. In terms of the young man that he's always been and grown up to be, we can only thank God. And, but those were top moments in terms of our life.
Even my dad went to go and do a sign with our names on, and we had to stand there. And it was in the house. He had a sign with our names on.
Yeah, he's a sign writer, so we wrote our names on the arch. And I think when they moved out, it was still there. And once we had the opportunity to see, right, after it was still there. I think by now it's painted off, but we were like, oh, people actually left it.
That's beautiful. Okay, and then your most difficult moment in your journey?
Oh, we had a lot. We had a lot. But I thank God for him being in our lives, because he teaches you as you go along. That, and in fact, until you learn to really leave your challenges in case with him. Because the difficulties you face is really the perspective you have in terms of what your growth and relationship with him allows you to have. So one of our biggest challenes was in 2009. We had left our employment and we went to work with very good friends of ours. One of our best friends in Polokwane. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for us. So the time we came back, we literally had nothing. We had to start over. But God was so good. He had planned something for us before. So a week before we left Polokwane, she came for an interview, 2 weeks, a week or two.
With an agent.
She actually got in trouble because she left the office because of that. But we had made up our minds. And I mean, we would obviously, in our own right, be like, please, Lord, but we never really, as a couple actually, because life was so stressful, prayed and said, God, please, this is what we're going through. Our kids were young, we actually spoke to them and we said, listen, we could have nothing. By the end of the next 3 months, we could literally have nothing. No home, no car. But we want you to know we love you and we'll keep ourselves together. And because we've come this far, we show that God will be with us and take us. So I remember we came back, then we had rented it out to someone else, so we had a phone bill, a home, we had a phone bill and an electricity bill, right? So, you know, it was a Friday, luckily it was summer, so sunset was a bit far, but you had to go to the municipal offices there in Centurion, and we're looking at the sun and we have an appointment just to beg and say, please, you got small kids, don't cut our lights and electricity. We just got back, we're trying to pick up our life. And just before we're supposed to go in and speak to the person that's now going to make the decision and support us or not support us, she gets a call and she says, this is about the interview that I went for. I'm like, why are you still sitting here? Go outside, talk to the lady, I'll beg, you can go, I'll beg you join me, but don't worry, I'll be on my knees, I'll cry if I have to, you go. And I don't think you joined me, right?
No.
When I came out, she told me she's got the job. And it was more or less at the same level that she had when she had left, when we had left for Polokwane. So, and that was within a week that we were back, or a few days, like literally
so we
just
got
a
back
few days.
the Sunday and I went for the interview with the CEO on the Wednesday. And the Friday is when she had called me. And
so we were back for a week.
And she told me when I actually started that day with him, she said, well, you know, I believe in the stars and all of that. And the thing is, I did a report on you, that's why I asked you for your date of birth and all the rest. And she said, well, the astronomers told me, well, you're not supposed to actually be working for me, but I made the choice that you will work for me. And that is God. And that is God, because at the end of the day, believing in the stars and you know, how you align with each other and all of that, so how she...
That lady never made a life decision without consulting the astronomer and the stars. So that was God known. And our kids will tell you, I was unemployed for 9 months for that period. So, you know, and we had our 2 kids, so we know what it is to not have, even worse if you have kids and you, because when we left, our debt was still in place. You know, we took that risk to go and do business, to build ourselves up, in the hope that within 2 to 3 years we could just eradicate that debt and, you know, build a good life for ourselves and our family. And God had other plans for us. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that I think was
Yeah.
the one. The other one for me, personally, we had just moved. So when Gabriella was born, we were on the 7th floor of a flat. We were like, oh no, we're not living in the air. With a little baby crawling around. You know, these windows and
Yeah.
in the one half room, there's a bed next to the window.
Okay.
So, you know, they can just be crawling everywhere. And so we moved into a new place. So obviously the strain, you had to pay petrol now, you had to pay a bond, you weren't paying rent, and you know, all these little things. Touched your pocket, right? So you had the baby. And now nappies. So we're like, we're old school, man, we'll wash it, we'll... I know that stories didn't even work in those years. And literally we had no money for the nappy. We had no money for petrol. And yet every month, the milk was, we didn't know about milk now, we had this, and even those years, I mean the price you can laugh at now, but obviously our salary, we weren't earning what we were, or at the level, but then even then, to what you were earning. So for, I think, even the cash, how we paid the cash, I have no idea, literally. So our whole first 6 to 8 or almost 10 years of our life, it was just God carrying us as a family. That's why I tell people, like I tell my brother and his wife, like I said, before we started, he's unemployed, you know, she's really having a stressful time. And they've just had the second child, like an 11-year gap, basically. And I said, don't worry. By the time that child is 10 years old, you look back and all you'll be able to say is, God took care of us. And I'll tell that to anyone. God takes care of his children. He means it when he says it. You wouldn't know. Still to this day, I don't know how. And it happened.
Sure. So, so you know, South Africa is a very diverse, like, society, and I know, like, within the colored community, you've got a specific culture and life and lifestyle. I've seen that a few times. I've come to Cape Town. Was that a factor at all in your relationship? I mean, do you even recognize that there's a cultural identity within your, like, is it something you even think of?
That was the other thing we just spoke about briefly this morning. That's actually a very difficult question because even depending on where you grew up within the community, the culture was actually different. So I'll say how I grew up without that sort of generic or generalized or whatever colored culture. Just westernized, period. But what was my culture was my belief system. So that informed my value set and because specifically the area I grew up with, either you're a gangster or you're not. And if you're not, well, either way, you'll get sorted out by these guys. So life was about, if you belong to a gang, you were, and with that came certain, well, depending on how serious you were, and that would determine your life and determine the trajectory of your life and the quality. Or if you wouldn't, it would be impacted by that because you lived in the area, and you needed to, on a personal level, decide that this wasn't my life, because where our society sort of brainwashed you was like you buy the house next door, basically, or maybe just a suburb across the street which would look a little bit better, but that would be the beginning and end for your life. So from a cultural perspective, in terms of what would maybe generically be seen as a colored culture, not really, but more from the church perspective and that belief system that the church and your parents, in terms of their understanding and interaction with that, that is what impacted us. So at least for us, the shared values and system, not systems, I'm thinking I'm at work now, the shared values and beliefs that impacted on us came from the church. And as developed as our relationship with Christ, together and individually, has grown. But that was actually the foundation of our relationship, and that impact and still impacts it the most, because even from a family perspective, we have our own way of doing things, different to my family. Like, and my family were very sort of easygoing. We never had set traditions on anything, or anyway, whether it was a family thing or a colored thing. And I think even your family, but you just had your own, your mom just had their own way that she would do things, because they were a bigger family, lots of kids, so she was very specific in making sure that she would raise kids in sort of do things. Like for my 21st birthday, for example, 6 o'clock in the morning I fetched her, she was still I said, here's a slice of cake, come. They sang for me, my mom gave me a key, and I went to work. And I was like, I'm fine. I party with the guys on the weekend or whatever. You know, but that was my 21st, whereas with them, there has to be whether there's money, no money. My mom will
my mother said, give me 1,000 rand and I'll sort out the rest. And I'm like, okay. And I had a velvet dress, because I was born in June, so it was cold, so I had a velvet white dress, and my mother went all out. I had people over, and that was 1,000 rand those years, like many years ago. And that's how, you know, that's how we celebrate. My mother believed in every birthday you have to celebrate because of life, and that is still installed in me. I still want us to have parties and stuff like that. And always, my mother always wanted us to have fun times, and that's for us. I'll never forget, because it brings back so many different memories for the year that you turned. This is what happened when you were 13. I can remember we went to Montague. My mother bought me a red top and a black dress, I mean skirt, and I had this weird hairstyle. But you know, I felt special. I felt special because it was my 13th birthday. So you know, we don't have a specific culture, but I think we've got such a rich culture, because we have so many different things that impact us. And at the end of the day, I remember my kids coming to us and asking us what is my culture, and we're like, we're South Africans, and we take from everybody's culture. So at the end of the day, I think it's you know, we are blessed. We're blessed with that.
That's really amazing. So final question, any message you want to share with young people out there, anything about marriage, relationships, and what do you think that we really have confused, just in terms of or
like what would you tell your kids, you know?
What we tell our kids is decide what you want. Look and see how the world operates. Like you asked me to repeat that issue about what it looks like now, the casualness of things, and that it's actually a choice. And I'll tell them, and I'll say, is that the life you want? Because you can create your own reality outside of that your society or your peers tell you this is what life is. And it's good because you choose it to be good. And it's not dependent or impacted on what they would decide for you to say, but why are you being old school or boring, or why are you being like this? So for me, it comes down to the choice and the decisions that you make. Like I'm saying, the context will depend on your relationship and your walk with God. And not God as that thou shalt not, but God as someone who loves you, like any parent would, and advise you, don't do that, don't go there. We know why they do that. It's the same with him. It's not a rule, but he just says, I made you. Why is the creator would you not actually listen to what I'm trying to tell you, because I know just what's best for you, and I'm doing it simply out of love, because I believe if he didn't, he would have said nothing, he would have left us.
Yeah.
But in terms of that, I would say just be intentional and be strong and committed in your choice and in your belief. No matter the path, no matter how long. And don't allow the opinion and the voice of the current, and for me it's just a current fad. Because even through our own lifetime, similar things have happened as we've grown up. It's just the difference and the levels are different because technology wasn't what it was now, then, right? How easy it is to get connected. You literally had to dial in the car, but it was the same. As the context was just different because the world is a bit different, but it existed then. Now, so I would just say, like I tell people, if the Bible says, if God says, love your enemy, like the world would say, love your brother, hate your enemy, but I say, love your enemy, or what is the most important commandment? You know, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That means that if the world tells you to stand up for yourself in a certain way, you stand up for yourself in a different way. That way might be seen as you allowing people to walk over you. But in fact, no, it shows that you are much, much stronger than anybody around you. And that's by the example that Jesus also gave us. And I'm saying if we commit to that, we make that decision, we can only do that through allowing the Spirit to work through us and strengthen us. But I believe that would be a differentiator and that would lift you and show you and just, I mean, I don't have words for it, but it would just, I mean, the lights would just go off. I mean, it's so difficult for me to explain that. Because I feel the pressure that our youngsters have today to fit into the world. That fear of if I don't fit in, then I won't be able to have, or even won't be able to afford to be able to live just a decent or a good enough life, or something that is for me is sort of a not a lie, but not a truth. I don't want to say it's a lie, but it's not a truth. You understand? And it takes a lot of courage to do that. But that's the message that I live by. So I tell my people at work, they come to me with issues, even work issues. How do I deal with someone that's trying to set me up for failure, that's not treating me well? Even people, personal issues with marriage, like I told someone, they came to me and said, we're struggling with our marriage. How do I deal with it? I've spoken to my friends and said, you do more than we even do in terms of marriages, so you've done enough. And I looked at him and I said, you never done enough. As soon as you think you've done enough, stop yourself and do more. And it's when you do more, and it's when you yourself grow, but the other person will come to realize that I'm being left behind in something that's very amazing here. Because generally what I expect this person is like, I'm done. I'm done. I've done this for you, I've done that, and I've done that. And I'm saying that's what we expect of Christ. No matter what we do. When we come to Christ, we expect Christ to forgive us. But we're not willing to live that same life with anybody else. Whether it's your friend, whether it's your partner, whoever it is, we're not willing to do that. And for me, that's the message I'd like to give. Don't expect something that you're not willing to give. And I think even aside from Christ, even in our own relationships with people, we actually expect more than what we're willing to give. And we feel justified in that sometimes for whatever reason. And I just feel you can never, ever give enough. Because as soon as you get to that point, again for me it's a choice you've made. And that choice will just have certain, your behavior will change, things will change. And you know, when you decide you're done with something or someone, you're done with something or someone. And very few times when you've moved over that line, very few things can bring you back to that line. Or back to the other side. So that would be my message.
I would just say that we should respect each other. in relationships, whatever it is. I know there's so many things with new things called blessers and all of that. That is not respecting each other. And that's not respecting another person. And even a relationship itself. If the person isn't already committed in a marriage, why go and do that? So I think at the end of the day, it's mostly respect. That is the biggest thing that I think that we should learn and teach people around us. That you know, giving of yourself is a lot, and it's a commitment if you're giving of yourself. And yeah, so I think for me it's just respecting yourself and the next person that you're going into a relationship with.
Just to, yeah, she touched on it. Life will happen, but I think the fear of pouring yourself into someone and believing that if the relationship doesn't work out, you've wasted. That's a mindset change that needs to happen, because I think that builds a lot of fear from either gender or guys, girls, or anybody within a relationship. Because that's, for example, after the amount of time we've been together, if I walk out of it and I'm like, oh, I've wasted time because of whatever happened, 22 years of my life, oh, and it's not. If I look at all the things I've learned, all the growth I've had, all the lessons I've had, and then the other thing is your view of success, of what is success. So she mentioned the shoulder blessed thing, right? So linking it to that is that our view of success of a relationship is materially what it can give us, and the perception it can allow us to give the world. So a relationship is only successful if I can be seen to have gained certain things, like the guy bought me a car, or he's paying for a flat, or I can do this, and I'm not paying for it, or whichever way. I can be seen to be with this lady who looks like whatever. So that brings about that casualness, and that because our success in terms of a relationship is not actually based on the fact that we've actually just given of ourselves, paid ourselves, made ourselves vulnerable to each other, right? And moved forward in terms of that, because the success of our relationship is the fact that we can be that with each other, right? Irrespective of the fact that we had nothing. For example, at some stage we had nothing. So what would have normally happened? Either one of us would have said, okay, you made a mistake, but I can't be seen with you, and I can't be seen to have nothing. Let me drop this thing and chase what I need to chase, so that I can show the world that I'm successful and I have this. Right? And that will obviously attract certain, so I won't be alone, I always have. But that's not actually what relationships are meant to be. And so we need to change our perception of what is success generally, but also in terms of relationships. And then we need to not be afraid to be vulnerable, because our vulnerability and being hurt is part of the process. I can tell you, we still have fights, we still have to sort things out. Maybe even when we go back home today or whatever, you understand? That's just life. That is a relationship, and that will, because we're different people, right? But not to be afraid of that, and to know that, in fact, how can I put this? As much as you pay yourself and you're vulnerable to that other person, you are safe because you're in Christ. You understand? And that's why I said from the beginning, the success of relationships depends on your relationship with Christ, but the context is given. So if you've been in the church for 30 years, but it's still hell or heaven, Christ shouts or hits you or hurts you, as opposed to that issue of grace, you know, that unmerited grace, mercy and love that Christ. So imagine yourself, even now, what type of parent you'll be to Do you understand what I'm saying? You know what you're going through. How would I have reacted to my daughter if this had happened to her? Would I have done this? No, I'd actually want to be like this. That is exactly what Christ would be. You understand what I'm saying? So build that context within your life in general, within your relationships. So in terms of life, I'll explain it to you. So we're quite on years, right? So at some points in your life you reflect back. And it's very easy for us to say, if we haven't achieved, we're not at that level. And it can depress you, it can affect your relationship, it can mess up your family, it can mess you up. But when you know that you are where Christ wants you to be, and you can achieve more, being at work, being at that level, with that little Christ gives you to help other people, not to be where you need in relation to what, or money or anything. Man, the value that brings to you, the peace that brings to your life, and the strength it allows you to have and to pour back into your family, into other people's lives, is so much more valuable. And that is how I've decided and chosen, and how we've decided and chosen to measure our life and our success, as opposed to saying, I didn't achieve what others mine or younger than me are, or because at the end of the day, if you're honest with yourself, it's linked to material things, and it's linked to self, just self-worth, and it has no value or impact on anybody else around you. And as soon as I change that approach, even at work, because I tell people, I'm not here to do this, push these papers. This is easy. I'm pushing them. But I'm here to add value to the guy sitting next to me, to the guy in the other office, in terms of what they're going through in life, so that they can see, but there is a different way, or there is a different path, or there is something better. Because I used to stress myself to death about work. And since I've taken that approach, basically I've then given that stress to God. Literally, that's a lesson it took me over 45 years to learn. And that's what I want to help you. Don't take 45 years to learn that. Learn it now.
And just a last
Noise.
So at one stage when we were in that difficult situation, I told Leroy, even if we live in a little place, just us as a family is enough. We don't need anything else but the family. And that is where.
And our kids will still tell us that was actually the best time of our lives that we can remember. Than when you guys were okay, when we could pay rent and pay our cars, and that time when we had no money, that was actually the most fun time that we've had as a family, bonding and doing things together, as opposed to, because actually you rock bottom, so it's like, oh, let's spend the money and watch a movie and have some ice cream and just have fun, as opposed to now, when you actually have money, you're like, we can't go watch the movie because we still have to pay for this and pay for that and pay for that and pay for that. Do you understand how that weird thing that life does to you in terms of saying, I need money? When you have it, your quality of life is actually a bit lower in terms of relationship and your life experience. I can buy my shoes and clothes or whatever, but still they'll tell me, you know what, that was just those. But they just know what is the issues. And they appreciate, we all appreciated the very simple things in life.
Awesome. Okay.